Let's move over to Biden on Venezuela.
Yeah,
I want to
sure.
end with a defense budget thing.
Okay.
So what's going on in Venezuela?
Yeah, so a few days ago, the Biden administration loosened some of American sanctions on Venezuelan oil exports. So this is a really big deal. The U.S. has imposed sanctions on Venezuela for a while because in 2008, then President Hugo Chavez had expropriated oil assets.
It's what we're talking about, man.
Yeah, of companies like ExxonMobil, and we wanted to punish them for being less neoliberal than we are okay with. And now, later when Trump came into office, he tightened the screws even harder because he wanted to cripple the economy so deeply that the government would collapse. Was this before or after Venezuela kind of was taken over by socialist authoritarianism?
After. So Hugo Chavez became president around 2008, maybe 2006. So that's when they elect the Socialist Party in there. Then they start expropriating ExxonMobil assets. We put in the sanctions. Maduro takes over after Chavez.
Okay.
Maduro starts doing undemocratic elections, you know.
Yeah.
And then now we're here.
Okay.
And because of this expropriation, Venezuela has lost a lot of the brains behind oil drilling.
Totally.
And now Venezuela is pumping less oil than it did in the early 2000s. This is because they don't have the tools and the wherewithal to repair the machinery when it goes down or to upgrade it at all. So they're kind of stuck in the past, and it's really, really bad for the international oil market, especially when fuel prices are going up, like we saw in the last CPI report. We want this oil on the market. We want them able to produce more. With the United States sanctioning them and crippling their export capabilities, it's hurting a lot of people. It's hurting everyone. It's really hurting the Venezuelans a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is why we have an influx of hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans into the U.S. from the southern border right now.
This is exactly why.
This is what's causing our border crisis. And when Republicans talk about the border crisis, you never hear this mentioned.
Of course not.
But the reason that Biden is now lifting these sanctions is because Maduro has made a promise that he's going to hold a free and fair, internationally monitored election. And this is exactly how we like to see the U.S. doing foreign policy.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. This is a fantastic trade. We want you involved in the global economy. We'll let you be involved, but make sure that your people have fair representation and let them have a right to vote.
Totally.
And we're going to oversee that, and the UN's going to oversee it. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not going to be the one to sit here and trust Maduro on his word. We'll see what happens. But these sanctions will be back in place in 6 months' time. So this will happen. So if Maduro doesn't stay true to his word, the United States is already prepared to reverse the sanctions, to reimpose the sanctions immediately.
Yeah.
Which is really good. That's exactly how it should be. We shouldn't punish bad behavior, but we need to reward good behavior.
Totally.
We have to reward good behavior.
That's how we get countries into our sphere, good actors into our sphere.
Yeah, and we don't want Venezuela and China's sphere. We don't want that.
No.
If we can avoid that, we would very happily avoid that. If we could, integrate our economies more with Venezuela, because it's not like Venezuela has terrorist organizations that want to destroy the United States. That's not happening, right? It's not like that. It's just not similar. But so now let's talk about the political repercussions.
Yeah.
Where are Republicans on this? Well, Republicans are not happy about it. Shocker. Lisa Murkowski has one thing to say, which her opinion is a little more understanding because of where she comes from. She is the senator from Alaska, and she wants more oil production to come from Alaska. And she's upset because this is going to undercut Alaskan developments. That makes sense because now the oil that was going to be produced in Alaska, the demand is now could possibly be met by the oil coming in from Venezuela, right? So that's fine. I understand that concern. I don't agree with it, but that's fine. That makes sense. Then we have another person. We have the ranking Republican on the Energy and Natural Resources Committee. He said that America should never beg for oil from socialist dictators, or terrorists. Well,
This is ridiculous to me.
yeah, Maduro,
it's kind of hilarious.
Maduro isn't a terrorist.
We're not begging for their oil.
At all.
No.
We're not even gonna necessarily buy their oil. We're just putting their oil on the market. It's not like we're necessarily buying it.
Exactly. It's kind of hilarious for me to read because it's so, this person is making a political statement and it means absolutely nothing. Like, it's so obvious, it's so transparent, it's so stupid.
Like, who buys this shit, dude?
Yeah.
Who is buying this?
Yeah.
Who sits there and it's like, oh yeah, Maduro, dictator, terrorist, I don't want to buy their oil. Joe Biden.
No. It's the person who doesn't even go like a single layer deeper to see what's going on.
Yeah. So Democrats have kind of mixed feelings. Florida Democrats are hopeful that this move could bring democracy back to the country. Venezuela, as Ben just mentioned, we've seen a lot of immigrants come from Venezuela over the last few years because of the massive sanctions imposed by the United States and some failures of their socialist fiscal policy. So with these Venezuelan voters being in Florida now, some Democrats are hopeful that if Joe Biden is the one to restore Venezuelan democracy, that could really help the Venezuelan voting bloc.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if Joe Biden looks like he's just an appeaser of Maduro, that's going to hurt the Venezuelan voter bloc. So it's kind of difficult, but I think I would go with the former. I think if Joe Biden's able to say, we got free elections in Venezuela, that's going to go pretty far.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you're converting an authoritarian government to a democratic one. Like, that's fantastic. I think another side benefit here is the hope that you help stabilize Venezuela enough politically and economically that we can ease up with our border crisis a little bit.
True.
Right?
Yeah. If we have a successful Venezuela, that makes our border problem way easier.
Yeah. I mean, the more we are able to foster good relations and positive economies in Central and South America, like, the better it is for us.
Yeah.
We have so many interests there. And this is, if we can do it in a way that we're encouraging democracy, it's great.
Yeah. And you know what? If we, like, this is something I say a lot with regards to the border. After World War II, Western Europe was destroyed. And in response, the United States passed the Marshall Plan, which gave a lot of money out to, these destroyed countries and gave them the capital to build back up. Well, the truth is Latin America needs capital to get built back up. And the return on investment for every dollar the United States spends in a place like Nicaragua, Honduras, or Venezuela goes a lot further than it does trying to secure the southern border. It goes a lot further. It reduces the number of migrants significantly if you can stabilize that country rather than just, try to stop them before they get in here.
Totally. Absolutely.
The last thing I'll say about the Venezuelan oil thing is Biden is also trying to position this as an anti-Iranian position. Because as we'll talk about right now, the United States and Iran are really staring at each other pretty close to the face. And Biden is hoping that with more Venezuelan oil on the market, this could weaken Iran's position. Because Iran is currently making a lot of money off their oil exports.
You gotta say Iran.
Iran. Fuck.
You gotta. Sorry, I just no, but as far as this point, I don't think it's going to do much.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
Because again, we just said Venezuela has a weak production capacity.
Yeah.
So I don't really buy that from the Biden administration. No. I just think that's just him trying to sound tough on Iran.
Yeah, and it'll take time for them to build up capacity, and they just don't have the. I mean, it's the production capacity. It's just the oil fields. Like, they don't have the resources to compete with these other massive oil exporters. So
absolutely not.
Yeah.